Good evening. Good evening. Hello. Sorry for the lateness. Whew. Everybody hear me? Mic working? Check one, two. All right, cool, cool. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I think DJT is probably going to see a gap up in pre-market and it'll probably see a sell-off at open. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. The MicroStrategy probably up on the Bitcoin rip. Yeah. Oil pulling back today, continuing its downward trend that it broke. So that could have some impact on our energy stocks. Let's see how it works out. Give it just another minute or so for people to come in. I still see numbers going up here, so I want to make sure everybody gets in. So, any news happened this week? I'm funny. Hello, hello, Christian. What is popping? Not much. It's hot. I got my office in the basement, so it's a little bit cooler. But man, it's 8 p.m. where I'm at, and it's still like 83 degrees outside. Nope, sorry, 85 degrees outside. I'm not okay with that, but it is what it is. Yeah. All right. Welcome everybody to the Sunday night market scan. My name is ajoenamedjoe. You can call me Joe. Uh, Feel free to hit me up on the Discord if you ever have any questions. Ask our team. That's what we're here for. Okay. Get you a tab in the sports section. I don't have any control over the tabs that belongs to MMA and Tilio. That is 100% not my call. Nice. Good. Now don't YOLO it on out the money options, okay? We're doing good, Norberto. All right, so let's get started. This is not financial advice. You are responsible for your own decisions. I will put what I think could be trades on the chart. That is not a signal to buy or sell. Um, you know the drill, right? So let's start off here. We're looking at SPY on the weekly. I tend to work from a weekly down to a 1 hour to look for trades and just kind of get an idea of how the market is moving. Yeah, this is just the Magnificent Seven plus the indexes right here. It's what I'm going to go over. And they tend to lead the market. So if I can kind of get an idea of what's going on with the big ones, I can get an idea of where the market is going. You see, I do have more watch lists around, but that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to just kind of take a look at the markets, see if what I think is going to happen, and so I can build a bias going into the week. Maybe a bias. I try not to have too much of a bias going into trading. I would much rather have an open mind and just be willing to trade whatever the market is giving me. That doesn't always happen though, as we know. Sometimes events and crazy things happen. Okay. Uh, Looking at futures right now, they gapped up and then they drew back and then they're just sitting flat right with Friday's close. So they're not really doing much of anything right now. Last I checked. See, they gapped up and then they just pulled back to the close. Now just kind of inching its way back up, but not really doing a whole lot. Futures are pretty quiet. So there's no crazy rip. The markets aren't ripping because of, what happened over the weekend. Um, it's just not to that point yet. So hold on. Okay. So nothing crazy is happening out in the markets after the news. Things are pretty quiet, and if anything, it kind of looks like maybe a little bit of a bear flag is forming here. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if they want to rip it higher or not. Okay. Checking out the SPY, starting from the 1 week, still on our way up. We've had one red week. But this is technically a red week, although it basically closed where it opened. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 12 weeks, we've had 3 of them were technically red. Not bad. We're batting 750, right? Or 725 or whatever the math is on that. We're batting 3/4. Everything seems to be continuing to point up, in my opinion. I think we will continue up on SPY. Let's take a look at the daily. Work our way down. On Thursday, we took out the highs and the lows of Wednesday. And then on Friday, we pushed it and we took out the highs of Thursday. So we haven't taken out these lows. There is a bit of a broadening formation happening there. So I could mark that on my chart. We're starting to see a little bit of volatility swinging from highs to lows, taking out the highs, coming down, taking out the lows. And then we broke the highs and then pulled back. So we're still sitting above the halfway point of that candle that broke the highs and the lows of the previous. So I'm still feeling a bit bullish on this. Q's opposite way. They did not take out the highs and the lows and go up. They took out the lows and then continued down on the daily. Checking out the weekly, a little bit more of a bearish candle. It did get the close back below the previous week's high or the previous week's close. So, in a little question, we might see a bit of a bit of a drawback here into this trend bar gap right here. Might give a nice spot for a long going into this week for new highs. I fully anticipate some sort of like another sideways week here. Probably just hovering under 500 before or after, and then they'll decide if they want to rip it or not. But we'll see. Okay. Diamonds ripped hard, and it was nice. It's still in this ranged here, this ranged area. See, just kind of chopping along there. If I pull out to a weekly, I am on a weekly. Is this a monthly? Oh, look at that. Monthly gap, chopping here. Now, if I check out the futures market hit a new all-time high. The diamonds hit a new all-time high. I'm still expecting it to come up to this 408 price. I'm expecting the diamonds to rip, mostly because of just how they performed last week. Like it took off, hitting these new highs, and it just ripped right out of here. And it got the close above this range. I think it's going to continue up. SPY looking bearish. No, I think SPY is looking bullish. SPY is looking bullish. I feel the Qs are feeling a little bearish to me. I want to see him come down a bit more into like 489 for a possible long. Come down here a little bit more. Diamonds are feeling bullish to me, but SPY is also feeling bullish. I think we're going to continue going up, guys. I think we're in gals. I think we're going to go into the election. We're just going to keep ripping, and that's what's going to happen. And the markets are just going to keep going up until the Fed taps and lowers rates, which I don't think is happening this year. The biggest name in the Dow? I don't know. Google it. DIA Holdings, United Health Group holds 8% in the Diamond ETF. IWM's got the big rippery do. Like, I mean, that is a massive move I've been bearish on small caps here, and that just took out the stop. Okay. So this is signaling a possible uh, rotation into small caps now. So if we're seeing bearishness in the tech world, and now we're seeing super bullishness in the small cap world, we could very easily be seeing a rotation into small caps. So there's a lot of smaller healthcare companies in the IWM, and you can Google IWM holdings, and it will give you a list of the things that are in the ETF. And those are the companies. The top one is the one that ripped. I forgot which one it was, but it's been ripping for weeks. Yep, FTAI. Yeah, that thing went crazy. Hey, look at that thing. It's, wee. It was a $16 stock 2 years ago, and now it just poked at 110. So small caps have been ripping, and now it finally looks like it wants to try and catch up. So that move intraday was nuts, and that was a fantastic move. Okay. So feeling bullishness a bit more on small caps now. Bearishness. I've been bearish for a while now, but now it looks like it's reversing and trying to get to the upside. So watching small caps, it does have this broadening formation. And it looks like it may want to poke into like 222 over the next coming weeks. And then maybe see a bit of a drawback, but we'll see if it wants to keep going or not. Amazon keeps trying to poke 200. It's poked it a couple times on this daily chart. Look at that. Can't. This line right here is directly at 200. It cannot get the push over. Uh, Someone on X had said that it looks like Bezos has sell orders at 199.99, which could very well be happening. And he's selling part of his whole. I mean, every time it gets close to 200. There's another filing where he's selling a bunch of stock. So I mean, that's a big pullback. Volume still, I mean, I feel like the Bulls are still in control here. I think Amazon is wants to break that 200, but there's a much larger setup here uh, on the quarterly chart, which puts it around 241. But I mean, this would be a setup that would take 6 to 12 months. This would be like another year. So we could be seeing a pullback here into this measuring gap. I'd love if it pulled back to 160s and grab some shares and ride it up to the 240s. But this is the setup that I'm watching right now on Amazon, the long-term setup. On the daily, Brian, we're right around here. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it keeps just, we'll see. I'd love to see it pull back even into this 160, man. That would be great. Come down here, fill in this gap, and then rip up to the 240s. Love that. But see what happens. So Amazon feeling like we might get a little bit of a pullback, but I'm still bullish. I think it's going to go over 200. And when it does finally get the close over 200, I think it's going to go pretty hard. Okay. Yeah, so you're looking like right here. Closest there, somewhere there. Yeah. I'm bullish on Amazon. I think the company's going to go, but Apple. Apple has left everybody in the dust and it continues to push. I think we're going to continue to see Apple push. And I mean, just how do you short that momentum, right? It went from 164 to 230 on one red week. So from April to now, it's just been going straight up. And it broke out of that range, pushed into new highs, got a little bit of a pullback, kept going. I think it's going to keep going. My thoughts on IWM is that it is probably going to see a rotation into small caps and IWM, especially if we continue to see downward momentum on the Qs. Google, I think this is just a pullback. I would look for it to hold 185 and then continue up. So we call it 184 and a half. That's what I'd like to see right there. I think Google continues itself up this week. Nice indecision candle coming down here, taking out the low, didn't dump out, pulled itself back up. I'd love to see if it keeps going. Also, very similar to Apple. It ranged, got the breakout, getting the pullback. Nice trend line here. I think it could definitely continue up. Nvidia, I think we're going to start seeing some consolidation happening here. So I'm going to update that trend line. Update this trend line. I think we start seeing a little bit of choppy movement here going into the end of summer on Nvidia. And I think we might see a rotation continue into AMD as a result. And let's see, ARM has been ripping. ARM ripped nice. Pullback very similar setup to, what was that, Amazon? And Google. Got the pullback there. So ARM pushing up. The semis are continuing up. Oops. Oops. VST pulling back. Nice. Consolidating here. Love to see if this thing can continue or not. Nice range it's putting in. VRT, very similar setup to that. Got the push out of the range. Now the retest, very inverted head and shoulders kind of going on here. So we'll see if that happens. But dipping into that range and pushing back out tells me that there's buyers in this range that want it gone. We'll see if it continues going. And SMCI still also very much similar to NVIDIA, consolidating out. I think we can probably see this thing continue to do something of this nature through the summer as well. And this would be one that I would definitely like set alerts on trend lines and wait for this thing to cross. I still think SMCI is undervalued. I still think there's a lot more into this. And I would like to see one more push up, like into new highs, maybe even to like 1,1500, and then a split. Yeah, SMCI. This is a setup that I like. Another one, ExxonMobil here. Still got that flag coming in. Oil is pulling back this morning, and oil did get a breakdown on a 4-hour chart, a trend shift to the downside. So we might see ExxonMobil continue down here, and it wouldn't surprise me if it wants to continue down to the bottom of this channel. We are in an election year. We're going to start seeing gas prices come down because they're going to start dumping money in that. It happens every election year. So just kind of keep an eye on oil companies. Mainly because it's not that oil is going to be cheaper. So if we start seeing gas prices coming down and we start seeing oil going up, we could get some into some nice, into some possible longs for some of these oil companies. Excuse me. I hope you guys didn't all hear that. That was disgusting. I'm sorry. Oxy in this range though, still got the breakout of this channel to the upside. Well, basically sideways, but we're still in this range. So I'd love to see it like kick itself out here. Let's go, Oxy. Get your butt moving, but still trapped in that range there. Let's see. Meta pull back to the trend line, this would be a nice place. I don't think it's going to break trend. If it does, it's probably going to take the rest of tech with it, to be honest. But I mean, this thing has gone ridiculous rocket mode since it hit 100, and they got a big gap down right into that trend line where they found buyers. So I would expect this thing to bounce pretty heavily right there. Why is my trend line all messed up? Why you all messed up? There we go. So, I mean, even though it got the break to the downside of that trend line, I'm still bullish on Meta. Let's take a look at just take a look at options flow here for Meta. See if that whale is still holding. See Meta 1030 calls for June 2026. Whale's still in it. So he's down 50%, but he's still there. Right. They will be. And there's a reason they will. It's because Meta always makes money, right? There's never, I mean, Meta makes money, right? So I think they'll try to reclaim it too. And I think they'll push us right back up. Microsoft, very similar setup to Meta there. But I would also like to see maybe this give a bit of a pullback here into this gap, maybe 435s. This is where I think we might see some weakness in tech on some of these big names on these pullbacks. I mean, that was a big pullback right there. And if we see a little bit of a trend break here on a weekly, a pullback into some gaps, we might see that as well. Microsoft inside week last week, so you could look for some strat trades on that one, intraday trades, and then Tesla has gone crazy. Went all the way up from the bottom of that channel. Now it's got the breakout. Now it's got the retest. This would be where I would want to go long. It's very low risk. Risk is going to be if it breaks back into that channel, right? And holds it. There's a lot of gaps here, you know? It did push into 270 and got slapped down pretty hard, but it held that trend line like, to the T. It wouldn't surprise me if this thing wants to try and push back up. So very textbook setup. Got a triangle down here from the bottom of a channel up to the top, the break with volume, lots of volume, the pullback, the retest. It wouldn't surprise me if that continues up. UPST and Affirm. Again, I really don't like their business model. And I've said that before, but I mean, it's still range down here, right? It hasn't broken out of anything yet. And it's above the 50% part of that range. So maybe up into the 30s and then, probably another pullback on that. But until it breaks out and it's got some volume and oomph to it, I'm not really looking at that right now. Affirm. Similar setup. Not really, actually. Nice trend line here. I'd wait for it to break the trend line. I mean, I can't. I'm not gonna. I personally wouldn't get into a trade until it breaks structure. There's no reason for me to get into a trade until it does that. I'm not gonna FOMO into something like that. Sure. I mean, you could say that. You could see that as a cup and handle totally. But I've seen cup and handles fail plenty of times. But even then, you'd wait for the break of the handle to the upside or the downside to trade it. So I mean, this MGM just feels like sideways movement here. Like It's condensing down a little bit. You could maybe toss some trend line alerts on there. Wait for it to break one. But I mean this chart right here, I can't. I'm not gonna say I would wait for it to break before before getting into MGM. So Basil with Tesla, this is a point where I would look for longs because we've already broken out of the channel that we were in. We pushed up to new highs. Okay. Over this last swing high. And now we pulled back directly to the trend line. So this is where I would personally look for a long because there's low risk in this trade, in my opinion, because my risk is Tesla's price breaking back to the downside of this channel or to the downside back into this channel. That's my risk. That little red box right there. That's my risk, and I'm looking forward to attempt these previous highs. So no, I'm not expecting a little more of a pullback. This is the pullback that I would be expecting, and this is where I would look to long going into it, going into an extension. Okay. SPHR, Sphere Entertainment. Uh, it kind of looks like a head and shoulders setting up to me. But that's pretty wonky. That's pretty wonky. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this popped up on my radar the other day because it's a recent IPO. But I mean, that IPO is all the way up there. Boom. There's the IPO price. So, I mean, what do you want? What can I say about this? Just kind of chilling, you know? All right, all right, all right. One that I did want to take a look at is Netflix. I think Netflix is going to try new all-time highs this week. I mean, it's completely negated this big drop, and I think it's going to at least try to break that 700 price again and push up. There's really, in my opinion, nothing yet noting that it's going to turn. We haven't had a trend line break. Had a nice consolidation triangle, the push up, the retest, the push out. Through the gaps, all the gaps, I expected this thing to continue down, and it didn't. It just defied it and continued to go back up. So I would assume it's going to break 700 and push up into new all-time highs. What it does from there, I don't know. But this trend line would be a nice place to get long if it sees a pullback into like 629 to go take off from there. Okay. So Netflix on check. The reason they're on watch is because they have earnings this week on Thursday. Who else do we have earning this week? We got ASML. I would look for a pullback on that just because of how this weekly chart set up. Look for a pullback probably into the 1,000. A lot of smaller banks this week, a lot of bigger banks too. Goldman Sachs, lots of buyers showing up here, pushing it out. More all-time highs for Goldman coming out of this setup. Beautiful setup, pushing up. Maybe it wants 500 this week. BlackRock, pretty nice setup there, in my opinion. Coming over these highs. Big push up. I'd look for a big push, especially with home values going up. It would make sense that BlackRock would go up. Bank of America as well in the longs for that, targeting this volume imbalance up here from the weekly chart or the monthly chart. That is what I would be looking at for Bank of America to continue pushing up. JPM already reported, and despite the not greatest of earnings, I believe, oh, it's actually a pretty fantastic earnings. Um, they did get the breakdown to the downside of that pennant that was forming. So we'll see if the buyers show up because they did get the push below, but they never got the close. It wouldn't surprise me if the buyers bought it up and banks took off. XLF got the trend line break to the push to the upside. This looks like it wants new all-time highs, in my opinion. I think that continues up. I think we continue to see banks push. There's really no reason why they won't, in my opinion. Morgan Stanley got that the setup finally completed, came down right to the entry, took off. I think it's going to want to take out these highs right here. That's where I think it's going. Anything else on the earnings watch list? TSM earnings. I think this will probably just continue up. I mean, this thing has just been chugging along. No major trend line breaks. Nothing. Why is this so out of whack here? No major trend line breaks. No nothing. No, we're taking over Taiwan or anything like that. Lots of volume picking up here over the last week. So all 5 days, higher volume as it's chopping along up here. To the bottom of this area. I think it tries for a new all-time high here. Or new high. I don't know if that's an all-time high. Might be. Yeah, it's an all-time high. I think it continues up. You're watching Lulu. Big pullback. Nice area here. Yeah. I'd be looking at longs around that area. I don't know what you're looking at. But I do believe like the other luxury brands have continued up. Haven't really stopped. I don't really know what the rest of the luxury brands are. Data companies, D-Dog. I like this company. They get the break there. See over that trend line. Break the retest. The problem with D-Dog is that options are pretty illiquid, in my opinion. So sometimes it's hard to get in and out of options contracts on this stock. So this is more of a grab some shares and hold on to it type of thing. Let's take a look at the rest of cybersecurity. So the big ones, Pan W, got the nice double cup, the push up. Now it's kind of flagging, it looks like. It's a 4-hour look like. Held up. Well, ANET, very similar. I wish it would traded more. Crowd, I mean, they all look very similar. Except FTNT doesn't look similar at all. D-Dog Net got the push up. I mean, these cybersecurity stocks, net at the bottom of that channel, getting the push back up now. Love to see it continue. OKTA, same thing. Channel pushing up. Love it. Continue up. VST, again, ranged. I'd look for a break over 96 to get long, or a break under 81, 82 to get short. But that's just how I trade. That's just my preference. Okay. Anything else? These big semis need nuclear power. No idea. Anything else on the? Not really. United Airlines is up there. You have to break into there. What was I looking for? There's a big trend buying gap. The break in, the close above it. Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking a possible long here at the bottom of this gap. It did get the close back above it here. Be a pretty small risk, in my opinion. Risk would be new lows. I look for the top of that range or the top of that gap. Light. Nice trend or nice trend line break. Increased volume. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Let's go. Feeling bullish. There needs some more volume. We're halfway through the month. Definitely needs some more volume on that. Uh yeah, I'm not really on to the meme stocks anymore. Um there's more controlling these things. Yeah, total hater. There's more controlling these things than I care about. ET, I mean ET is just phoning home, man. Keeps going. Got that long we were watching for. Boom, boom, boom. On the way up, trend bar break or trend line break, push up, took out that high, pulled back. I think it continues up. ET has been a pretty decent company since rehitting those COVID lows again. So it came down. Lots of buyers showed up when it came down here again. Like, what happened? You see all this volume? When it came down to these lows for COVID, price came down, took out all these lows. The volume showed up on just like it did on everything on COVID. But then when it came down back down to these lows, look at the volume show up again. Like it started ramping up. And then when the gap down and hit those prices, boom, volume showed up and it hasn't gone really anywhere. We're not seeing like a lull in the volume like we did here. We're seeing very increased volume still. So I definitely keep an eye on this one. I think let's get a ray. I mean, that's a pretty decent trend. I mean, it might get a pull back to this trend, but for the most part, I mean, it looks like it's continuing up. That's a better trend. Oh no, where'd it go? Right there. So fun. I mean, yeah, you can watch all the meme stocks. Like I said, I think they're gonna get a gap up, and then there's plenty of bag holders that are gonna sell it back down. Honestly. All right. Let's take a look at some of the futures. What's the S&P 500 doing? Nothing. Gap up, filled the gap, doing nothing. And Q, same thing. Gap up, filled the gap, doing nothing. YM hasn't filled the gap, but it's there. Oops, sorry. Dollar. This is a setup to be watching as well. Weekly setup. Some big trend lines coming in here from June of 2021. Hit again in December 2023. There's another trend line here from December 2023 into June 2024 that it just broke to the downside of. Okay. Um, I want to see what happens when it hits April's lows. I think we're probably going to push through this breakaway gap, given the fact that we've already rejected the measuring gap twice from the weekly setup. I don't think we're going to get an extension out right now. I think we're going to see the dollar come down, probably to this longer term trend line. And then if we break that and continue down even further, We're probably going to see equities continue to push up. So, so keeping an eye on the dollar. Got the nice break to the downside, which is going to give us some possible bullishness in equities. Another stock at all-time highs or monolithic power systems. I mean, I saw a GLTB fall, hit my scanners a few times, but I haven't looked at the chart. But monolithic, I mean, it's a stock that's at all-time highs. I mean, what do you want to do? There's no structure there. There's no setup. So I gamble at it and take it long if you want. Knock yourself out. Gold consolidating up here on the weekly, got the break to the upside. So I'm looking for gold to return to the top side of the range that it's in, right around 24.48. Why would you buy shares after the split though? That doesn't make sense. Just because they're cheaper, I mean, then you're just ending up with a diluted share. You buy before the split and you ride it up, and then you get the split and you double your shares or triple or you know quintuple your shares, whatever. I'm not looking at CMG. They're going up. They got a split. Cool. I don't know what you want. Silver, the SLV ETF saw some interesting gamma right around the January 17th, I think it is, 30 call. I think it might want to get a break up into 30. I think it might even get a push above 30. But I don't think it stays there. I think it pulls back. So I think we're going to get a push up on silver into the 30s. I mean, don't tell MMA, but I've actually been looking at cars on Cavana. Thinking about getting a few. I mean, their equity has boomed. It's starting to pick up. Their income statements are getting better. Their statistics are now profitable, which has been nice. They've been unprofitable this whole time. They got a big boost here. What was this? Quarter 3, 2023. Became unprofitable again, quarter 4, and now they're profitable in quarter 1. So it looks like they did get a nice um what was I thinking? What was I just thinking? I don't remember. I lost my train of thought. It took off. But the one thing that I would be a little skeptical on is they don't have any return on their equity for this company. They are getting a return on their assets a little bit, but I mean they got used cars. It's kind of a pain to get a return on a used car, but that's just my opinion. I mean the chart looks like it's probably going to continue up. There's nice cup around continuing. I wish there was more volume on this push, but there's not. So that's about all I got for Carvana. Nice break of that trend line and the push up. Could draw another trend line here. And wait to see if it comes back down. If Carvana breaks it and goes to 200, great. Whew. Another one to keep an eye out. Target. Did get that break of that trend line from the daily, pushing up nicely. I would expect it to continue up. Really nice buy up as it touched that trend line too. Got the retest and then the push right on up. So target I'm liking. Walmart getting the nice pull into this gap, trend bar gap right there. Nice place to go long, in my opinion, right around the 50% mark. Set my stop just below the gap, target the highs. Not the greatest of trade, only about a 2-to-1 trade, but still 2-to-1 trade. Yeah, I like it. Anything else? Anybody got anything else? See what else was I going to go over? So the setups I'm watching: ZOM, XOM, this channel here. There would be a setup I'm watching right there, looking to downside the bottom side, looking to go back to the bottom side of that channel. If it breaks to the outside of this channel, great. I take a long on it too. Okay. It's probably one of my major ones. And then looking for silver swing to hit 30. Webull does, but not to the extent Thinkorswim does. They have a pretty good um, financial statement part. I just prefer Trading View. It looks nicer, in my opinion. It's better laid out. It's not as graphical in Thinkorswim, but let's see. So yeah, ZOM target, watching the dollar for continuation to the downside. All of these things are my favorite things. I want Amazon over 200. I don't know if I'm going to get it. Tesla longs coming out of that trend line. What other crappy EV companies do we have? Anything doing well? Rivian's got that nice boost. I mean, this feels like someone's buying this up, right? This feels like it's going to continue up. Anything else? Vev 122s. Yeah. That was a ridiculous penny stock bounce. I assume that's going to be sold into. Chipped also getting a nice one. Your charge point. Volume showing up, getting the break above that previous high. See if it wants to continue. Lucid also with a big move up. It's been nice. You know, the more day trading I've done, the more I've like transitioned into like investing. If that makes sense, Brian. I've been looking at the financials of a lot of companies lately. One thing I really like about TradingView is it breaks everything down. So when you go to financials and then you go to statistics and it gives you these valuation ratios and the profitability ratios. I mean, Lucid right now is just hemorrhaging money. And these are negative net margins. Like they're just hemorrhaging money, right? But they've got I don't even know what they've got going on. They're not profitable, that's for sure. So I view and graph on TradingView. Actually, so I trade options in Thinkorswim, and I I don't care about DJT. I'm sorry. I think it's going to get gap. I think it's going to gap up and then get sold into. That's what I think. The chart is going to be worthless to look at because an assassination attempt on a president doesn't happen every day. The technicals aren't going to matter on DJT or fun or any of the other Trump stocks. So I think it's going to gap up and get sold into. I do my charting. So it depends on what I'm trading. So I do a lot of charting on TradingView and I trade a lot of futures as well. And I can trade directly from TradingView into my futures account. But I also trade um, options and I hold stocks, and I do that in both Webull and Thinkorswim. And Thinkorswim, I like. There's a lot of uh, studies that work very well that don't translate to uh, TradingView very well. So I do like Thinkorswim for that, but I prefer. I feel like TradingView is just it's smoother. It feels better. It doesn't feel as clunky as Thinkorswim. Doesn't feel as old. Um, Trend lines work well. I don't have. I mean, it's just I feel I like it better. It feels better to me uh, than than Thinkorswim, but I still use Thinkorswim and Webull. I chart mostly on TradingView though. AstraZeneca hitting those highs, pulling back. Lilly, I mean, this thing's got to keep going, right? Eli Lilly, they've got to keep going. I think we're hitting into a new era with weight loss drugs, and I think they're at the forefront. Norberto was talking about finding stocks to split and get cheaper. I mean, I think Eli Lilly's probably going to split here at some point, and I think they're going to keep going up, especially due to weight loss drugs. Because I know people are bashing them. Like people are so fat they got to take a weight loss drug to do it. Who cares, man? Like who cares? People are getting if these drugs help fat people lose weight and keep them around longer and keep them out of the healthcare system and keep them out of diabetes and high blood pressure and heart attacks and strokes and all that other shit that comes with being fat, great. I am I am more than I would love to see Lilly change the face of America from fat people to not fat people with a simple injection drug. And if they can get it to the point where people can pop pills for it, great. If it's not harming people on the inside, if it's not melting, the the organs of fat people, great. Like let's do it. Let's get this weight off these people. And if they end up taking these drugs for their whole life to do it, if it adds another 10 years onto their life and they can play with their kids and their grandkids, then that's a win-win to me. Okay. Yeah, they have Ozempic and a few others that they've based off of that. And then there's a few other companies that have weight loss drugs as well. And they're catching on. Like they're expensive, but insurance is paying for them because insurance realizes if people start losing weight and stay out of the hospitals, like that's a win. Yeah, the hospitals might lose money, but the insurance companies are going to make money because they keep collecting premiums and they don't have to pay it out every time. Your big uncle Mike has a heart attack every 6 months. Right. Well, that's why they're working. So for those who don't see, Brian said that it screws people with diabetes. Though that's why they're working on alternatives for the drug that do the same thing essentially, but are are different combinations of other drugs. So they can do they can do the same weight loss and not take away from the people that have diabetes that need this to continue going. So they're working on things like that. That's why there's like 5 different Ozempics. Google it. The thing is, there's plenty of this drug. There's no shortage of it right now. That's my tangent for the night. We can keep fat people out of the hospitals. Everybody wins. You're welcome, Brian. What else did I say? Yeah, I don't think the Trump assassination attempt is going to affect the markets at all. If anything, it will. I mean, his odds to win doubled. His Vegas odds doubled uh, after the attempt. And the last time this happened was uh, Reagan, who won in a landslide. So if that is the case, then the markets are planning for that. That may have been the case already. The markets were planning for it, but we'll see. I don't think in and of itself right now it'll affect the market. I think uh, inflation and rates are going to be bigger right now. So you go sleep in your wife's boyfriend's basement. All right, Brian, have fun. I didn't even know you had a wife, but I'm happy for you. You took the semi lude shot every week for the past year. Yeah, dude, lost 100 pounds. That's awesome. Like that's awesome. That keeps, I mean that takes care of your diabetes. That lowers your blood pressure. That makes that lowers your chance of knee and hip replacements. Um, like that's a good thing. That's awesome. J&J. I mean, they've got earnings coming up. I mean, this company constantly makes money, right? I don't think they've had a red earnings in forever. I mean, look at the bottom. It's all green E's, green E's, green E's, green E's. When was the last time they had a red earnings? Uh, January 2011 was the last time they had a red earning report. So, I mean, you can take that for what it says. And probably, I would look for it to maybe push up to this trend line, but again, is very much in like a flag pattern here. I would wait for it to break out before taking a possible trade, but had this nice consolidation area here to the left that we broke out of and then consolidated up here. Now we're pulling back into that. So it's a nice place to take along, in my opinion. Hood, I love. Uh, I think this thing is going to continue up. It did get a poke that gap and pulled back almost immediately, which is expected, but it's holding its own above this previous high. Hasn't dumped down. It's probably moved sideways for a little bit, but this is something that I have in my long term port, and I just bought shares around 14 or so, and just sitting on them. I think Robinhood is horribly undervalued, and I think it will continue up in the long term. You're welcome. All right. If that's all she wrote, uh, you know, thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming to listen to me rant a little bit. Uh, if there's anything about this weekend that has taught me anything, is that like this isn't the answer, right? We can all agree to disagree on our politics, but like if this was legitimate and like and shooting people isn't the way. So I hope you all have someone that you can give a hug to and be good to people, even if you don't agree with them. All right. You can disagree with people and not shoot them. Right. Someone got hit with the bullet. Someone didn't get to go home and see their family that night. So disagree with people, but do it respectfully, not with guns. That's all I'm going to say on that. Uh, I love you guys, gals, non binary pals. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, hit me up in the Discord, hit up our team in the Discord. It's what we're here for. That's what you pay for. Ask questions. If you got questions, ask questions. Utilize the team. And if we don't get back to you right away, keep asking. And sometimes things get buried. Sometimes DMs get buried. It happens. Okay. So learn to trade. Don't just come here for the alerts. Learn to trade, learn to read the markets, learn to make a living out of this because like that's what we're all here to do. We're all here to make money, obviously, but like I don't really want to work a 9 to 5 anymore after doing all this, right? Uh, I think it's important that if you're here, to just to do more than just make money. Learn a skill. It's probably going to take some time, but learn the skill and like be better for it, you know? So hope you guys have a good night, and I will see you in the Discord. Take care. Be nice to each other, and I'll see you later.